If it feels like there's a new diet or fitness trend every week, that's probably because there is. Scroll through social media for 5 minutes and you'll find someone swearing by keto, intermittent fasting, or juice cleanses that supposedly melt fat overnight. You might recognize a few of those, and honestly, you've probably been tempted to try at least one or two. But while everyone's obsessing over losing weight, we're largely ignoring one of the most important tissues in your body: muscle. And it's not just the diet world that's full of fads. Fitness has the same problem. Workout challenges that promise to burn off fat in one specific area, extreme boot camps, they're hard to stick to and rarely deliver what they promise. Building muscle ends up feeling complicated, overwhelming, and unrealistic for everyday life. But it doesn't have to be. Today, we're going to simplify the process of building muscle using scientific evidence and principles that actually work. Hello, everyone. My name is Caroline Lowisz.
And my name is Kelly Chen.
And we're both researchers at McMaster University. And our lab, the Protein Metabolism Research Lab, is located just on the other side of campus. If you see a lot of protein or resistance training content on your social media feed, you might be familiar with our supervisor, Dr. Stuart Phillips. Our lab focuses on exercise and protein, both together and on their own, to help people of all ages build muscle and live healthier and happier lives, which is exactly what we're here to talk to you about today.
And by the end of today's presentation, you'll be able to understand why muscle resistance training and protein are important, recognize the major muscle groups and exercises that target them, identify common barriers to exercise and tips to overcome them, describe what, when, and how much protein is needed, and of course, to reflect on changes that can be made to your current exercise and diet routine to support muscle and overall health. Skeletal muscle is important for function, daily activities of living, metabolism, and health. Specifically, muscle plays a key role in movement, posture, strength, and balance. Breathing, think about it. Every time you take a breath, muscles have to contract and relax to expand and shrink your lungs to get in air. Eating, think about when you go eat a yummy burger, your muscles have to bring the food to your mouth, and the muscles surrounding your jaw allow you to bite and chew. And skeletal muscle is actually also a key storage center for carbohydrates and protein. It's the primary storage center for glucose and is a key regulator of blood sugar. Being a jack of all trades, muscle also helps with thermoregulation. So our muscles actually initiate shivering to keep us warm in these cold, grueling Canadian winters. And importantly, skeletal muscle also helps to keep you healthy and reduces the risk of several diseases such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and osteoporosis.
Take a look at this graph. What it's showing us is how our muscle mass and function change as we age. Muscle peaks somewhere in our 30s, and from there, particularly once we hit our 40s and our 50s, we naturally start to lose about 1 to 2% of muscle each year, and our strength declines even faster than that. When that loss starts to affect how we move and function in daily life, it has a clinical name: sarcopenia. And as you can see on the graph, it's what pushes people past that disability threshold, the point where everyday tasks like climbing stairs or getting up from a chair become genuinely difficult. But here's the important part: that rate of loss isn't set in stone. The green line shows what healthy aging can look like with the right habits. People who stay active, eat well, can preserve their muscle and physical independence well into older age. The red line tells a different story: a disuse event, like a bad fall, a long winter spent indoors, or an unexpected illness. These all can dramatically accelerate the decline and push someone past the disability threshold a lot sooner than expected. The good news is that we have more control over this than most people recognize and realize. Most people are unaware of how active they need to be throughout the week. The World Health Organization recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate activity or 75 minutes of vigorous physical activity, combined with resistance training at least twice a week, hitting all major muscle groups. And you want to spread that movement over at least 3 days during the week. To put that in perspective, moderate activity is something like a brisk walk, where you can still hold a conversation, but you're working. Vigorous activity is more like a run, where talking in full sentences becomes a challenge. For older adults, adding some balance and flexibility work is also important for preventing falls. The Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines zoom out and look at your whole day, not just exercise. That means aiming for 7 to 8 hours of sleep, limiting sedentary time to 8 hours or less, breaking up long periods of sitting, and keeping recreational screen time down to under 3 hours. The bottom line is that movement isn't just about your workouts, it's about how you structure your entire day. So what is resistance training? Resistance training, also called strength training, is exercise where your muscles work against a force or weight. That resistance can come from dumbbells, machines, resistance bands, or even your own body weight. Or even certain fitness classes can incorporate added resistance. Think of your muscles like tiny engines. When you push, pull, or lift something that challenges them, they have to work harder. And over time, that work makes them stronger. And the benefits go well beyond just getting stronger. As you can see from the image on the screen, resistance training can improve your heart health, mental health, and longevity. It helps to reduce body fat, improves your ability to move well day to day, and makes you more resilient to injury. Social media will have you believe there's a perfect time, a perfect exercise, and a perfect program for building muscle. But the truth is, none of that matters nearly as much as just simply starting. Something is always better than nothing. The best time to train is whenever fits your day. The best equipment is whatever you enjoy using, whether that's free weights, machines, resistance training, bands, or a group fitness class. And no, you don't need to lift heavy to see results. What matters most is that you show up consistently. You may have also heard about cycle syncing, timing your workouts around your menstrual cycle. While there's some emerging research in this area, the bottom line is that the best time to train is whenever you feel good enough to move your body. So earlier we mentioned that the World Health Organization recommends training all muscle groups at least twice a week. The major muscle groups you want to target are your chest, your shoulders, arms, back, core, glutes, and legs. And a well-rounded routine will touch all of these over the course of the week. A helpful way to think about it is push versus pull. Pushing movements like pressing your arms away from your body work your chest, shoulders, and the back of your arms, also known as the triceps. Pulling movements like drawing your elbows back towards your body work your back and the front of your arms, also known as your biceps. Most good programs are built around a balance of both push and pull movements. Your legs work the same way. The front of your thigh, your quads, and the back of your thigh, your hamstrings, often require different exercises to target properly, so it's worth making sure you're training both. And don't forget your glutes, they're one of the largest and most important muscle groups in your body. Now we know that getting started is often the hardest part, and the barriers are real, so let's go over some of the most common ones and how to work around them. Motivation can be unpredictable, and that's completely normal. Working out with a friend or joining a group class can help with both equipment and accountability, and enjoyment as well. And if you're not seeing body changes right away, try focusing on other wins, getting a little stronger each week, or simply showing up and proving your consistency. Weather is a genuine challenge, especially here in Canada. So having a backup indoor or home routine means a bad stretch of weather doesn't have to derail your progress. And if the gym starts feeling intimidating, starting at home is a completely valid place to begin. Cost is a real concern too, but resistance bands and free online videos are genuinely effective, and many outdoor parks have equipment you can use for free, once the weather gets a little bit warmer. When it comes to time, even 2 full body sessions a week can make a meaningful difference. And not knowing where to start is one of the most common barriers, and it's also one of the most solvable. A personal trainer or free online videos can go a long way in building your confidence and showing you exactly what to do. With the right support and a routine that fits your life, exercise can become more manageable than it feels right now. So now let's think of learning a new language like getting stronger or starting to work out. At first, everything feels awkward and slow, but the more you practice, the stronger those skills become. Stop practicing and you start to forget. Building muscle works exactly the same way. Consistent effort makes you stronger. Stop training and both your muscle size and strength begin to fade. This is what we like to call use it or lose it. But here's the encouraging part. Just like picking up a language you once knew before, your body remembers. Muscle that's been built before is easier to rebuild than starting from scratch. So if you have a setback or a long break, you're not starting from zero. Small, regular efforts add up over time, and progress comes from showing up again and again. Starting something new can feel intimidating, so here are a few tips to help you along the way. On the safety side, if you have a chronic condition, a previous injury, or haven't exercised in a long time, it's worth checking in with your doctor first before you start getting physically active. Make sure to start slow, use light weights or just your body weights, and gradually build up over time. and try to learn the difference between normal muscle fatigue and actual pain. It's also very important that we warm up before and cool down after, along with some stretching. And remember to breathe through all of your movements. Exhale on the effort and keep your joints slightly soft and bent rather than completely locked and straight. For a few general tips, give your muscles some time to recover between sessions and make sure you're eating and drinking enough to fuel your body. Remember, food is energy. Make sure to set small, realistic goals. Something like being able to carry your groceries inside without stopping for a break is a perfect example. And keep it enjoyable. Mix things up, find classes that you like, and lean on friends or a workout partner when you can. Because here's the truth, motivation will come and go. There will be days you don't feel like it. But consistency, showing up even when it's imperfect, is what actually gets results. It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Our muscles are very active tissues that are constantly renewing themselves. The body is always breaking down old muscle proteins and building new ones, and over about 90 days, most of your muscle tissue is rebuilt. Therefore, muscle gain or loss doesn't happen from just one workout or in a single day. Instead, it's a continuous process that happens over time. In this figure, the green line represents periods where the body builds more muscle than it breaks down. When this happens, muscles grow. Activities like resistance training and eating enough protein and calories help support this process. Whereas the red line shows periods where muscle breakdown is higher, and if breakdown is greater than building over time, muscles can shrink. Things like fasting or sleeping can temporarily increase muscle breakdown. Interestingly, though, exercise also breaks down muscle, but this is actually a positive stress that signals the body to rebuild the muscle bigger and stronger afterwards. So the balance between muscle building and breakdown really determines whether you ultimately are going to gain or lose muscle. And an easy analogy to help you understand how resistance exercise and protein intake complement each other is the cake and icing analogy, with, of course, a little tribute to St. Patty's Day. And so I want you to think of resistance training as the cake, the thing you want the most of and what will provide the most benefit for your muscles. And then think of protein intake as the icing, the finishing touch that makes the cake complete and what really ensures that you're supporting the best muscle recovery and growth. Essentially, what this means is that just eating more protein is not enough to build your muscle. You really do need that resistance training to achieve the necessary stimulus. The main nutrient required for muscle growth is dietary protein. And when we eat protein, it gets broken down into smaller units called amino acids through the process of digestion, which then enter into the bloodstream for absorption. Therefore, you can think of the amino acids as the building blocks or Lego blocks of proteins, which make up our muscles. And in total, there are 20 amino acids, and to effectively build muscle, you actually need to consume all of them. However, 9 are considered essential amino acids, which means they must be obtained through our diet because our body cannot produce them. And then the remaining 11 are considered non-essential, which means our body can produce them naturally. It's also important to remember that protein is useful to ingest for reasons beyond muscle building. Think immunity, cellular processes, hormone production, blood sugar balance, satiety, among other things. And different protein sources are made up of different combinations of these amino acids or building blocks, which ultimately determine their quality. Now, protein foods sourced from animals and their byproducts will have ample amounts of the essential amino acids and are generally rich in leucine, isoleucine, and valine, which are the 3 amino acids that are the main drivers to signal muscle growth, with leucine being the most important. And then the plant-based protein options are going to be another high-quality source of protein if paired correctly with other plant proteins. And this is because some are going to be low in specific amino acids. For example, beans have low levels of the amino acid methionine and high levels of lysine. But if paired with rice, which is rich in methionine but low in lysine, together they're going to make a complete protein source. And soy, think of it as a special exception as it contains all the essential amino acids on its own. And with so many options out there, it can definitely be overwhelming to decide which protein sources are the best. Whey is a milk-derived protein found in dairy products, and it is a great example of a high-quality protein source. In supplement form, it's known as 100% whey protein isolate, and it's considered the gold standard due to its high leucine content, and it contains all 9 essential amino acids. And then you have whey protein bars, such as the brand on the screen. They're like pure protein. They're another great option, but they're usually going to be a mix of whey isolate and concentrate. As discussed on the previous slide, plant-based proteins are another great option for vegetarians and vegans, and protein powder companies will often mix 2 concentrated forms, such as the pea and quinoa blend you see on the screen. Collagen, on the other hand, only contains 8 out of the 9 essential amino acids, so although may be good for hair, skin, nails, it is not useful for muscle building. Supplementing with a collagen powder or collagen protein bar, such as that very popular one on the screen, Built Puffs, where the only protein used is collagen, is comparable to eating bone broth soup. Unfortunately, 0 benefit for muscle. Casein is another great complete protein that is milk derived. However, it's very slow digesting, so maybe a good option before bed to keep your body in a positive protein balance for longer throughout the night. Now, you may be wondering, how much protein do I need? Well, the World Health Organization recommends that all adults consume about 0.8 grams per kilogram per day of protein, and this is known as the recommended daily allowance, or RDA for short. And it's a population level recommendation that should meet the basic needs of most individuals. However, this is not always the case. The RDA should be viewed more as a minimum amount of protein required to prevent deficiency. And certain groups, such as athletes and older adults, have higher protein requirements to optimize muscle mass. So protein experts actually recommend about 1.2 gram per kilo per day. And in athletes and those who exercise regularly, this can even be as high as 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilo per day. And to show the discrepancy in protein recommendations, let's take a look at our friend Jamie. Jamie represents the average Canadian female. Based on her weight of 77 kilos, or about 170 pounds, she would only require about 62 grams per day of protein if following the RDA. But based on optimal protein intake to support healthy aging and muscle, she should really be consuming at least 92 grams per day. That's a 30-gram difference, which is pretty significant. So now let's take a look at what Jamie's meals look like in a typical day. So for breakfast, Jamie may have a slice of bread with a tablespoon of peanut butter and sliced banana, or on another day an RX bar, each of which only provides about 10 grams of protein. For lunch, she has a 2-egg salad sandwich, or maybe a butternut squash soup plus a side salad, each of which only would provide about 15 grams of protein. For dinner, her largest meal of the day, chicken, rice, and broccoli, provides about 40 grams of protein. So as you can see here, many adults like Jamie are not consuming enough protein during their breakfast or lunch meals. So let's try and make some changes to her diet to change that. So for breakfast, instead, she could have a bagel with 2 eggs, slice of cheese, and 2 slices of bacon, or Greek yogurt parfait topped with protein granola and nuts for total about 30 grams of protein in either meal option. For lunch, Jamie can have a tuna cheese melt in a protein wrap, or a chicken quinoa salad on a bed of greens for another easy 30-ish grams of protein in either option. And for dinner, as mentioned, not usually a problem for most Canadians to get enough protein, and this beef power bowl provides her with around 40 grams. So when we think back to how much protein the World Health Organization recommends, we can see here that she reached the RDA with her current diet, so 65-ish grams per day. But if she wants to eat a muscle supportive diet, and we really see here that the bottom diet helps her easily reach 100 grams per day. All of the options on the screen are healthy options, but without proper planning and intentional addition of protein foods, it can be sometimes challenging to meet the optimal amount. So the important lesson we learned from the previous example is to make protein the star of every meal. So we can see that with Jamie's previous diet, she was not consuming a lot of protein at breakfast and lunch, and there is a recommended optimum amount of protein that you should be consuming per meal. So for individuals aged 18 to 65, this amount is around 25 grams per day, but individuals age 60 plus, this is as high as 30 to 40 grams per meal. And going back to the muscle balance slide, we can see how by making a few easy swaps, we can make sure we're hitting the optimal amount of protein throughout the day to promote a positive protein balance. And now you're probably thinking, what about protein timing after exercise, and does it really matter? So a common misconception is that you need to chug down your protein shake or eat your post-workout meal within the hour of finishing exercise because there's a limited window of opportunity to make muscle gains. This is not true. So, for example, let's say you work out at 7 a.m. You do not need to rush to eat by 8 a.m. Realistically, you can easily have your next meal at lunch several hours later and be just fine. In fact, research has shown that muscle growth rates remain elevated up to even a day or a day and a half following resistance training in healthy adults, even without protein feeding. So instead of thinking of eating for muscle growth as a tiny window of opportunity, think of it more as a garage door. And remember that timing is not nearly as important as total daily protein intake and protein quality. As you can see, both animal and plant-based protein foods are encouraged as part of a balanced diet since equally can stimulate muscle growth. And a food-first approach is always best since you are getting a lot more of a complete nutrient profile. And while supplements like shakes and bars can make it easy to get in more protein, they often lack the vitamins, minerals, and fiber present in whole foods. Supplements typically have a single nutrient focus, many additives, and should be treated as the name suggests, to supplement your diet and never to replace your meals. And although not the focus of our presentation today, balanced eating to support overall health would not be complete without mentioning fiber. Much like protein, fiber plays many important roles in the body. So we have soluble fiber, which forms a gel-like substance moving slowly through the digestive tract, helping to balance blood sugar levels, lower LDL cholesterol, and manage hunger by keeping you fuller for longer. Examples would be like oats, apples, chia seeds, flax seeds. And insoluble fiber, on the other hand, which is going to be moving quickly through your digestive tract undigested, adding bulk to stools, which can help keep you more regular. And examples might include brown rice, quinoa, legumes, cruciferous vegetables, etc. Prebiotic fiber is another type of undigested fiber that acts as a fuel source for the healthy bacteria in your gut. So, for example, Jerusalem artichokes, asparagus, and chickpeas. So really the message here is diversity is key. So it's great also to know that most fiber-rich foods are a mix of these types of fibers. And by following Canada's food guide plate model approach, you are more likely to reach the recommended amounts for females, 21 to 25 grams per day, and for males, about 30 to 38 grams per day, depending on age.
Here are the key messages we want you to leave with today. Muscle matters, especially as you age. Strong muscles keep you independent, mobile, and healthy. And resistance training is the most effective tool we have for building and maintaining them. Any movement is better than none, but strength training is worth prioritizing. The World Health Organization and Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines are a great framework to guide not just your workouts, but how you structure your whole day. And above all, consistency. Not perfection, not the perfect program, just showing up regularly in whatever way works for your life. On the nutrition side, protein is your muscles building blocks. Focus on whole foods first since they offer far more than just protein alone. Supplements can help, but they don't replace a good diet. Now, we started today talking about the endless noise of fads and trends, and we hope we've given you something a little bit clearer to hold on to instead. Thank you for having us, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.